Hey there. So, this training is for leaders on my team who want to help lead team calls. So, I'm going to give you the strategy and then I'm going to talk about how to effectively execute a team call that is good and valuable to everybody who's listening. Okay. So, let's talk about team call strategy. So, first Monday of every month, it's going to be a strategy call. Basically, we're going to take what the company has given us and show people how to utilize it to grow their business. The company is always giving us like incentives or promos or whatever that we can use as tools to grow our business, but we don't always know like, oh, well, who am I supposed to talk to about the product of the month? And what do I say? And am I supposed to use the product of the month to recruit? Like a lot of times people just don't know what to do with all of the tools and resources that our company gives us. And we're very thankful for all the tools and resources. But to clarify things for people, first Monday of every month, we're going to give everybody basically a strategy, a game plan, an action plan. Tell people exactly how to utilize what we've been given, whether it's an incentive or a promotion, a contest, whatever the case may be. Okay, so we're going to tell them exactly what to focus on and what to go and do. Okay, the second Monday of every month is going to be highlighting recruiting. The third Monday of every month is going to highlight retention. The fourth Monday of every month is going to highlight duplication. So that's the first three pillars. So we're going to do strategy, recruiting, retention, duplication. And in order to train people well in the pillar of leadership, which is our fourth pillar, we also have the leadership table calls, which are earned, and those are on Thursday nights. We also have jewel calls, which are earned. You have to be a jewel to be on those, right? But everybody, in order to earn the leadership table calls, then you have to have created a new business builder in the last 6 months. If somebody is not doing that basic thing, if they have created no new business builders in the last 6 months, then they don't really need to be focused on the pillar of leadership. They have to master those first three skills: recruiting, retention, duplication. Okay. So, everything that I'm about to tell you about the why behind why we are now doing team calls this way is really born out of a book that I started reading a few months ago called Boundaries for Leaders by Dr. Henry Cloud. It's kind of misnamed though, because when you think about boundaries, like it sounds like it would be a book about like work-life balance or putting boundaries around your work or whatever. But that's not what it's about at all. It's really about why some people get results and others don't, which is the tagline here. But they gave us this book when I went to the Mastermind Summit for 3-star and above diamonds back in February. So on my way home, I started reading it just because I had it. And I was blown away by some of the stuff I learned in there. So I was like, oh, it had me evaluating like everything that we're offering as a team, etc. Okay, so chapter 3 in particular is called Leading So That Brains Can Work. And it talks about the executive functions of the brain and how those are imperative for high performance. So there are 3 essential processes that I guess are considered executive functions of the brain. First one is attention. So like, what are you paying attention to? It's your ability to focus on what's relevant and block out what is not relevant. So like, pay attention. That is an executive function of the brain. Got to be able to focus. The second one is inhibition. So that is the ability to not do certain actions that could be distracting or irrelevant, or even destructive. So basically, your brain's part that is telling you, don't do that. Okay. And then the third executive function is working memory. So that is the ability to retain and access relevant information so that you can make decisions, plan ahead, reason, things like that. All right. So basically, that's the part of your brain that tells you remember this and also build on relevant information. Okay. So those are the 3 things. Our brain has to be able to focus on something specific. So that's pay attention to this, not that. not get off track by focusing on or just like being assaulted by information or other data inputs or toxicity, and then continuously be aware of relevant information at all times. Okay, so these three functions of the brain are imperative for high performance. If you want your people to perform well and get the results that they want, then they're going to have to be able to do those three things: focus, inhibit distractions, and remember what's important. Okay. So any kind of purposeful activity is going to require those three brain functions. So like if you're setting and reaching goals, that requires executive functions of the brain to perform well. If you're driving a vision forward or just conquering an objective, just like higher level thinking, those are the things that are going to be required. So you guys have heard me say a million times, number one success indicator, number one thing that is going to determine whether or not you will achieve a goal. Do you believe that you can achieve the goal? Belief that it can be done. Number one success indicator. However, number two success indicator, and this is make or break, but ability to prioritize the activities that will move the needle forward. Okay. We are constantly assaulted with information all day, every day, from every angle, right? And the same is true in our business. And so when I was on my way home, I was on the airplane, I was reading this, I'm just like, wow, I'm just like, it really caused me to pause and just evaluate, what am I doing as a leader to help my people focus on what's important, drown out all distractions, and then remember relevant information and build upon that. As a leader, we have to set boundaries for people's attention. And it's so easy to become distracted. And I would say, especially if you're going to be vulnerable to distraction, if you're addicted to comfort, or you feel like you don't know the next step, or you feel like somebody else is doing better than you and you fall into comparison mode, or you feel like you're not reaching your goals, or this is harder than you thought it was going to be. Any negative thought can cause us to be vulnerable to distraction, because you guys also know, you've heard me say this a lot, 90% of distractions are allowed and internal. They're not external and imposed on us. External and imposed would be Molly running in here right now begging for a snack and me having to stop what I'm doing, okay? But internal and allowed would be, I know that in order for my business to grow, it's time for me to create a new business builder. But then when it's time to sit down and do that, I find it more comfortable to talk to my team who already has the vision and is excited to grow Plexus business with me. Or I start scrolling social media. I avoid because it makes me uncomfortable. Okay. So as a leader, we have to be aware that our people are going to be bombarded by potential distractions, and we got to set those boundaries around people's attention and help people focus on what is important and drown out the distractions. So we want to lead in a way that ensures that our own energy, like my energy, your energy as a leader for your people, and your team's energy is going to be spent on what's important. Not just their energy, but also their mental real estate, their any resources, their time, their brain space, whatever. Okay. And you want people focused on what's important. You want them focused on what's going to drive results while also limiting the distractions. So that means that as a team, whatever we offer, or as a leader, you specifically, whatever you are offering to your team, make sure that what's important is always being paid attention to, and that what is not important is just not allowed or it's inhibited, and that there's ongoing awareness of what is relevant to reach their goal. Okay. So when I was evaluating everything we were offering as a team, I'm like going through everything, our team calls, our book studies, our weekly accountability meetings, coaching calls, like everything I'm doing. And I'm asking myself, is that helping people focus on the key drivers? Is it keeping the main thing as the main thing? Is it something that is going to renew energy and focus and purpose? And if not, it's got to go, because it's actually impeding people's performance and slowing their progress versus speeding them up and helping them reach their goal that they want to reach. Okay. So this is how this team call strategy was born. Because when I'm thinking about our Monday night calls, we have tons of training. We've been doing this for years, y'all, years. And so at this point, we have the training that people need. And we could continue to train and give people new information and new training, but I think we're at a point where, like, what we need to do is just draw people's attention to the training that we already have and keep people focused on keeping the main thing as the main thing. And people are going to focus on what the leaders are talking about. And so the team calls were starting to feel like almost like organizational ADD or something. Like, we didn't really have a strategy. It was like every month I would think, okay, what am I hearing from my leaders and my people? What do their teams need? Who's the best person to deliver that message? And, do they need inspiration? Okay, I'm going to go interview some people who are very successful. Do they need, are we having a retention problem? Okay, let's focus this month on retention. Who's got good retention and can lead that call? Or what do we need? Do we need like more joins? Maybe we tell people our best strategy for getting the most joins, so it would always be like, well, what's the team need right now? And let's go that route. But really, it's 4 pillars. If in order for you to make it to the top, you have to master 4 pillars: recruiting, retention, duplication, and leadership. And everything else that takes your attention away from that is going to be a distraction and therefore can slow you down. Okay. So what we need with the team calls is people paying attention to the things they should be paying attention to so that they can focus on prioritizing the main things, drowning out distractions, not allowing anything to distract from that, and then just it being brought to remembrance over and over. The brain actually needs to be reminded much more frequently than it needs to be taught. And so if we follow this strategy every month of, we start the first Monday of the month off with a strategy, here's what we have to work with, and here's the action plan to go and do. And then the second Monday is recruiting, third Monday is retention, fourth Monday is duplication. Then people are going to be reminded over and over and over to keep the main thing the main thing. And then, of course, once they start duplicating and they have created a business builder, then they can earn their spot on the leadership table where we meet another need. Okay. So that is kind of the why behind the strategy. All right. So on the strategy call, usually I'm going to look for people who have strength of strategy. Like, if you were to take the Gallup's Strength Finder 2.0 test, there are different categories of strengths. And we all have things that we naturally do well. Some people they have influencing strengths. Some people have execution strengths. Some people have strategy strengths. And I can't remember what the other category was. I don't remember, but that's not important right now. Strategy is being able to just give people a plan. It's like, here's the vision and here's how to accomplish that. It's like combining the vision with a plan. It's like light bulbs for people. Okay. So we're going to just go over what is relevant for that month. Like in May, the new Leaders Retreat contest rolled out. And so I spent a lot of time coming up with different scenarios of like, here's how to earn this as a gold. Here's how to earn this if you have no business builders at all. Here's how to earn it if you're brand new, and here's how to sweep the contest if you have several workers already. Like, I was just coming up with different scenarios and saying, you need to recruit this many people and retain this many and have this many, hit silver or whatever. So I'm just like basically showing people, yes, they're giving us the structure and the contest. Here's the thing that we have to work with, but here's how to apply it. Okay. And then in June, we didn't have double credits anymore. And so then people need to know, okay, here's how to go and earn 350 credits in June. Because if, when the double credits ended, then people are feeling like, oh, this is a lot harder to earn than I thought. Maybe I can't earn it. And so when people start thinking things like that, it kind of slows them down. But if you can just say, oh, well, it's 1,250 credits to earn the cruise. If you just earn 350 in June, 350 in July, and 350 in August, and I mean, you can totally qualify for the cruise. And even if you're brand new, because brand new people get double credits their first month, right? So when people hear things like that, then it's just like, oh, there's the vision, there's the plan. Now I actually can do that, and then I'm going to go and do that. Okay, so we're just going for the strategy call. I would just like grab the monthly email that Plexus sends us that tells us like all the happenings for the month, all the promos, discounts, whatever. And I would just tell people how to utilize every part of it. Well, the most relevant parts. Some of it we don't utilize, but anything that we do, I would say, here's what to do with that. Here's the type of person this is good for, and here's what I would say. Okay. And also on this strategy call, it's a good time to address any like mindset issues that have been coming up. So like if people are making a lot of excuses for why they can't consistently work their business right now, or like if like it's summer and the kids are home and they're feeling like, oh, I can't grow my business during the summer because my kids are here. I would address that if that was relevant. Or if I'm noticing that a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed, then I would speak to that. Or if I was noticing that morale or belief was low, then I would address that. I would say something to build belief and inspire and just help people get out of their own way, because it's thoughts that hold people back, right? It's not skills, it's thoughts. So give an action plan combined with the vision. That's a strategy. That's also the first Monday of the month. The strategy call is a good time to address any mindset issues that we've been, that we've like seen popping up like from different people. Because oftentimes if one person thinks it then or feels that way, then there's probably others that feel that way too. So I would be looking for patterns, and I would use that opportunity to just speak to what people are needing in that moment. Okay. And then for the other calls, for the second, third, and fourth Mondays, we're going to do recruiting, retention, duplication. And I'm going to give you the structure for that. But also, if sometimes there are 5 Mondays in a month. And so everybody does need to be inspired. And sometimes it's incredibly inspiring to hear from somebody who is incredibly successful and hear from them. So, I mean, if I think maybe like once a quarter, we have a month that has 5 Mondays in it. So that'd be 5 team calls. Then we could use that 5th Monday to interview somebody who's really successful and, have like a guest speaker, or highlight people who have earned winner's dinner or who have earned a cruise so far, or like whatever. We can be flexible. So that is a time where, we can just meet the needs of the team, whatever those are in the moment, whatever's relevant right then, we can take an opportunity to meet that need. Okay. But for the other calls, second, third, and fourth Mondays, here's kind of the plan for those. If you are leading one of those, it would be the first 5 minutes, you would recognize the people, like we'll shout, like let's just say it's a recruiting call. The first 5 minutes, I would shout out the people who recruited well the previous month. And the reason why I want to recognize this is because people are going to focus on what is recognized. They just are. It's the same with retention and creating business builders. I feel like with recruiting, well, first of all, it's the first skill you have to learn when you come into this is customer acquisition. And also it's shiny and it gets recognized frequently. Like if you recruit well, a lot of times you're going to earn an incentive, or you're going to get a graphic with your name on it and a shout out on the team page or on your social media or whatever. And that is a good feeling. People love to be recognized, and people will work harder for a praise than they will for a raise. And that is just human nature. So we'll start the call with recognition. And people are going to focus on what is recognized. Then that shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. The next 10 minutes will be two people who get 5 minutes each sharing what their process is. If it's recruiting, they're going to share their process for how they're recruiting well, or like just how they did it. And same thing with retention and if they're duplication, if they're creating business builders, how did you do that? Tell us your process. How did you do it? Okay. How did you get those results? 5 minutes each. And then the last 10 minutes of the call will be Q&A. So you would pick a few questions from the chat for the speakers, and you let the speakers answer those questions. And I love this part because the Q&A, it is, well, first of all, I would, before I hand it over to the speakers and introduce them or whatever, I would tell them, hey, if you have questions as they're talking, type them in the chat. But then after the speakers get done talking, they're 5 minutes each, then I'm looking through the chat and I'm trying to find good questions that would add the most value to the group as a whole. And I would ask the question and let both speakers answer. And I love that because, first of all, this element of the call, it makes it something that you can't get from a recording. If you're just watching a recording, I mean, you're going to still get value from it, but you don't get the opportunity to get your question answered. If you're just watching the recording and you hear the speaker say something and you're like, oh, I wonder how blah, blah, blah. You miss an opportunity to get to ask that person who's probably around your level, the question that you want to ask. And so another thing is, these calls are super inspiring to people. So I said a minute ago, so every once in a while we'll have a fifth Monday and we can use that for inspiration or whatever. I do think people need to be inspired by somebody very successful. However, most of the time, what keeps people inspired is feeling like they can relate to somebody and that person is getting results. Like when people think, oh, that person's just like me. If they can do it, I can do it. That is inspiration. And so when we highlight these people, they don't have to be earning six figures. They just need to be getting results in one of the pillars. And we're going to recognize them. We're going to have them share their best tips and practices and how they're getting these results. That inspires everybody on the call because they're thinking, oh, they're just like me. If they can do it, I can do it. Okay. And then this Q&A portion, it's like they're going to get two different perspectives, oftentimes from people with different personalities. And so then people can, relate to one or the other more so, which is great. We want people to be able to see themselves being successful. And if we have multiple perspectives from different personalities, then the chances are higher that somebody is going to be able to relate to them and feel like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. Okay. Again, it keeps people from just watching the recording. And then this keeps people focused on the key drivers that are going to move the needle forward in their business. It inhibits distractions and it gets people results. Okay. They're going to learn new tips every single time. So these calls are open to everybody. Our Monday night team calls open to the entire team. We often have well over 100 people on them. And so anybody can get on there, and you don't even have to be working the business to get on there. If you're on our team, you can get on there and watch. You don't have to be producing anything. It doesn't really require anything other than you just get on and watch, right? So that's good because it creates culture and community. And however, one thing to be aware of as leaders is that when something is open to any and everybody, non-contributors or non-producers can kind of fly under the radar. They can just kind of like hide or drift along, but they're not really required to add anything. So I want to read you this. This is from this book, Boundaries for Leaders, page 47. All right. So on non-contributors can safely hide, drift along, and sometimes stay for years and add virtually nothing to the mission. Why does this happen? Well, nobody is really paying attention. Nobody is telling them that their non-performance is not allowed. And no one is really aware that they're not getting anywhere in relation to last month anyway, because a working memory is not being created. They're just looking busy, but not growing. But when the executive functions are alive, people have to grow and perform just to keep up, or someone will really notice. All right. So for these people, what we came up with was the leadership table. This is an earned call, and this is why it was formed. Because as leaders, we need to be able to pay attention to the people who deserve our attention, right? The ones who are creating business builders, it just won in the last 6 months. They are the ones doing what it takes to actually grow a business, and they are the ones who deserve our time and attention, right? And on the leadership table, nobody can fly under the radar here because it's an earned call. And if you don't earn it, then you need to either be mastering those other skills, or you need to be paying attention to those other skills. You need to be doing them. Okay. So either you haven't learned them, or you have learned them and you're just not doing them. Either way, if you're not on the leadership table, which is where we focus on that fourth pillar, which is leadership, then people will notice. There's no flying under the radar there. Okay. And we discuss on this call all things leadership related. We highlight leadership and people who are doing that well. We coach. We ask these people for feedback because these are the people we want feedback from, right? And so that's why the leadership table calls were born, so that we can, as leaders, pay attention to the people who deserve our attention, and nobody flies under the radar sometimes for years without. And it's totally fine if they're on the team calls and not producing anything. If they stay on there long enough when we're focusing on strategy, retention, recruiting, and duplication, then at some point they should be getting results, because we are causing them to focus on the things. Like, we're not going to ignore those things. We're going to be focused on the key drivers that get people results. All right. Now I want to talk to you about how to execute a team call, how to make it good, how to make it valuable. Because if you have 100 people who are carving out 30 minutes of their evening, oftentimes away from their family, that's a sacrifice, and it's also an investment, and they're expecting to get a return. So hold on. Okay, yeah, I do get that. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know is that aesthetics do matter. Okay, so you want your space to be clean. Like, you don't want it to be cluttered, because that creates visual noise. So it doesn't have to be spick and span, but I mean, I would try to avoid having piles of stuff all behind you, or sitting in front of even a bookcase where there's a million titles and words all behind you. Those can create distractions. If necessary, you can even use a Zoom background. If you just click on the part where you turn your camera on, and this is on a computer, I don't know about mobile, but there's a tiny little arrow where it says video, and it will allow you to choose a virtual background. So that's always an option. If you don't love your background, that's totally fine. And it doesn't have to be, Pinterest worthy. It just needs to be clean and distraction free. Okay. Another thing that is important if you're leading a team call is lighting, because you don't want it to be dark. That makes it hard to focus. People are already tired because we have our team calls at night at 9 p.m. Eastern, which is, for a mom or a working person, they've already done a million things that day and they're tired. And so The lighting helps people focus. It kind of brings a little more energy. It brings clarity. And so the lighting is important. You want your light to be on your face, not behind you. So like right now, well, I'm going to show you the difference. Right now, there's a window behind me. I mean, it's daytime in here, so you can, I mean, it's well lit anyway, but you can see the difference in the lighting when the sunlight is on my face, you know? So if I were to have it behind me, see how that is distracting when you have the light behind you? You want the light shining on your face and not coming from behind you. You want the light coming toward you. Okay. So something to keep in mind. And then the sound. Just make sure you have a quiet spot. That is, going to be free from distraction of like, noises, whatever. Okay. And just so you know, if your kid runs in occasionally, we all have had that happen. And in all of my years of doing this, I've had it happen quite a few times. My favorite thing is when a teenager needs to print a 15-page paper and the printer is right next to me and I'm leading a call and it literally won't stop printing. So listen, it's okay if you have blunders now and then. We all do. It's just, we do the best we can. Okay. And then you want to dress the part. If you're leading a team call, dress for the part you want. Like if you want to be a jewel, dress like a jewel. You want to be a diamond, dress like a diamond. Show up on the call looking like the part that you want to play. Okay. And then have confidence in your posture. That is important. I think shoulders back is good. A smile on your face is really important. Really important. Tone of your voice. Like if you're monotone and flat, people will be bored. So it's important that you show up with enthusiasm, with energy, with voice inflection, and a smile. Smiles make you warm. They make people feel comfortable. They make you approachable and relatable. Okay, so you need to smile when you're leading a team call. So those are just a couple of quick tips. All right, so to prepare the call, first of all, you're going to gather the information needed. So oftentimes you may not know who the top recruiters were the month before, or who has the best retention, or who's creating the most business builders or whatever. So that's something that we can probably work on together. But so I can help with that part, just determining like who we're going to highlight for each thing. But we need to determine who is doing this pillar well and would add value to the whole group. That is the goal. Okay. So I'm not going to pick somebody that I'm thinking, oh, that person has potential to be a good leader. She just needs practice. Let me give her a platform. No, that's not the goal here. The goal is to take 100 people's time very seriously. Okay. So we're going to pick people that we believe will add value to the most people. And keep in mind that whoever you pick, you're basically handing them a platform of influence over not just your own team, but your sidelines teams. And so we do take this seriously, who we're handing a platform to. Like I wouldn't just put somebody on there, but they could recruit 25 or 30 people in a month. But if I don't trust them and I wouldn't want my team following them, then I'm not going to highlight them on a team call where all the business builders on my team are going to be watching, right? All right, so we're going to determine who the people are. And we're going to reach out to them individually, or you're going to, if you're leading the call, you're just going to determine who the people. I'll help you determine who the people are, but you can message the person and ask them to speak. And if they say yes, then you thank them, you be excited, and then you give them expectations. So that would be, just thank you so much for being willing to do it. I know that it is definitely an honor, and we cannot wait to hear from you. We're also excited because you're doing this well, and we want to know exactly what you're doing. So thank you for being willing to be generous with your results and your training, your and your time. And then you tell them 5 minutes, okay? And you want to tell them they have 5 minutes to share their process and how they got those results. Make sure that you emphasize that the 5 minutes is very important, that they need to time themselves to make sure that it's not over 5 minutes, because we want to be respectful of everyone's time. And 5 minutes is a short amount of time to share how you're getting all of the, everything you'd want to share about how you're getting amazing results. However, 5 minutes forces people to be concise. And there's a quote, I think John Maxwell said this: if you want me to speak for 5 minutes, I'm going to need a month to prepare that. If you want me to speak for 30 minutes, then give me 2 weeks to prepare that. If you want me to speak for an hour, I can go right now. Basically, the point is, the tighter you are on time, the more concise you have to, it takes time to drill it down to be careful about every word, and is this necessary to say, and only say what is the most relevant, and say it in a way that packs the most punch in the least amount of time. And so it forces people to be concise. And this is a skill that I have been forced to learn being asked to speak on convention stages, because they give you 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 45 minutes, but give you a broad topic. And then you really have to work hard to hone it in and drill down to what will pack the most punch in the least amount of time. Okay. So 5 minutes. So make sure you emphasize that. All right. Then after you've gathered the info, you've got the speaker set up, then when you're on the actual call, you'll do the shout out. So the first few minutes is going to be recognition. And I will probably have to help you with that too, just with all the people who need to be recognized. We may not do that on the retention call, just because I don't really have a way to determine who has, I don't have a way to sort in my back office or, determine who all is doing that well. But you'll do the shout outs, and then you're going to introduce the speaker, tell their rank, and tell their results. So this is what causes people to lean in and pay attention. And so you want to, when you introduce them, give a quick little short, 1 or 2 line bio, hey, this is Jessa. She's a Ruby and she accomplished this last month. And so definitely excited to hear what she has to say. Jessa, what you got to say? And then you're going to want to tell people, hey, we're going to hear from 2 people tonight. As they're talking, ask questions in the chat. At the end, I'm going to pull whatever the best questions are, and we'll have an opportunity to ask them, to answer these questions. Okay. So introduce the speakers. And then at the end, you're going to pick the questions that will add value to the most people. And feel free to add your own 2 cents in if you have something. If you're leading this call, feel free to interject and, ad lib or whatever, or don't feel like you have to do that at all, because you don't have to do that in order for this to be really good. But if you have something to say, don't feel like you have to bite your tongue because, you're not sure if you are allowed to speak, or if you are. You are, but don't feel like you have to. Okay. 30-minute call. So you want to keep watch on the time, and then thank the speakers, and then end the call at the 30-minute mark or thereabout. Okay. Sometimes we might be a few minutes under. If we go 1 or 2 minutes over, that is not the end of the world. So let me just remind you, be enthusiastic, bring energy. That's so important for these team calls, because by the end of the day, people are tired. And so if we want them to be alert and pay attention and not be distracted, then they're going to have to be engaged. Energy is what causes people's brains to engage. So bring energy, smile. Don't forget to smile. Be excited. If you're not excited, why should they be excited? Right? All right. So this is how to lead an effective team call. I cannot wait to see you leaders stepping up, leading from the front, and everybody's going to get to see what an incredible leader you are. So thank you all for being willing to do this with me. Very excited to see how this is going to go over the coming months. Love you guys.